We have multiple Rockets free agent targets revealed in this brand new report that talks about 3 different centers that the Houston Rockets could add an NBA free agency that comes up in just under a month's time. We tell you our thoughts on all of these in today's video. Welcome into Rockets Digest. I'm Jace Andrews, and I appreciate you joining us. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and we're on the trek now to 2,000 subs. I believe we can get there before the end of June. If you hit that subscribe button, I know we'll be there. All right, so we obviously know that the free agency season is coming up, and it's time to start talking free agents that could come in and play with this Houston Rockets team. Now, I know Steven Adams is a free agent, and if he does leave, that leaves a pretty good center spot for the Rockets to try and fill out, especially with Jock Landale, potential for him to get moved in a trade. So center is for sure a position that the Rockets want to go out and look for. The first guy that we're going to talk about is Andre Drummond, and here's the quote from Alec Elijah, Rockets SI, saying, quote, "The Houston Rockets will have a couple of roles to fill next season. The center room and the free agency market could be a perfect chance for Houston to make a couple of moves for team-friendly contracts." He goes on to say more stuff about Andre, but I tell you right now, 7.3 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game. Yeah, he's 32 years old, but we all know what Drummond is about, and I truly think he would be a pretty good fit for this Houston Rockets squad for a lot of different reasons. Ultimately, he will be a bench role. He will fill in that aspect and play with Alperen Şengün in most case scenarios, so that is kind of the goal there. There's also, I hate to say it, but there's a chance that Alperen gets traded in a Giannis trade. And in some ways, that makes these free agent centers even more reputable because you're going to need that because Giannis is not going to play the center position for you. That's just not that way or not how it goes. Even Kevin Durant for that aspect, you're going to need some sort of backup center. Obviously, we want Steven Adams, but we cannot guarantee that he might go get more money on the open market. So Andre Drummond is the first guy that we look at here, and I truly think that he is a good fit. 32 years old, so a little bit more of a veteran presence in the lineup, but the rebounds per game are high, and that is what this team is built off, his offensive rebounds, and ultimately he fits that mold pretty well. His field goal percentage relatively high. He's going to get down, he's going to get low, and I think he'd provide valuable minutes when Alperen Şengün is not on the court. So that's a pretty good thing to have in that aspect. Here's what Alec Elijah says about Mr. Drummond, saying, quote, "He currently has a $5 million player option available with the Philadelphia 76ers, which he has until June 29th to exercise. However, with Philadelphia in a state of limbo following a small rebuild and the need for a fresh start, perhaps Drummond could be looking for a new home and a solid playoff contender," end quote. In come the Houston Rockets, who are a very good home, and on top of which they are a playoff contender. They will be next year, and in a lot of ways, they're trying to be more than a playoff contender next year. They're trying to be the top team or one of the top teams in the Western Conference, if not a top team in the NBA, trying to fight for that NBA final spot from the West and maybe even a championship at that point. So Andre Drummond, he has a lot of experience in the league. He's a veteran presence. He can help Alperen Şengün out in a veteran way. And I know that Steven Adams is also in that same sense, but Drummond has a lot of experience as well, so it would really kind of work out in a lot of different facets. We continue on in the final part of Andre Drummond from Alec Elijah, who says, quote, "If the Rockets can entice a veteran like Drummond to join their young squad, he can be a great locker room leader and also offer the veteran presence," end quote. And we talk so much about how maybe Fred VanVleet is potentially gone, maybe even Dillon Brooks getting traded as well. So in that aspect, the veteran presence is for sure needed. And I say Dillon Brooks. That guy cannot be a veteran presence with some of the things that he's done on the court. At the same time, though, Drummond could easily come out here and do exactly what you expect. Be a really good role player bench guy. He's going to be a pretty cheap contract. He's 32 years old. He wants to win. The Rockets are a place to win. And in a lot of ways, Houston is enticing for so many different reasons to these free agents. I mean, you talk about no state income tax. You also have the fact that it's a winning squad. They're set up for success for probably the next 4 or 5 years. Like, it is a really, really, really good place for a lot of these free agents and honestly these trade targets that would like to come here and play in Houston. And for those reasons I mentioned, I guarantee most free agents, they're going to look to Houston. They're going to ask, and Houston going to have kind of the pick of the litter in some aspects in that way. So let me know what you think about Andre Drummond in the comments. Is that a guy you'd like to see on this Houston Rockets roster, or maybe is it somebody else that you'd want to see? We'll continue on here as we go into our next guy, and it is none other than a Memphis Grizzlies player, saying, quote, "The Memphis Grizzlies young center Santi Aldama comes in at second on this list following his best season in the league. The former first-round pick has been an excellent role player for the Grizzlies, offering the ability to be a key big man in their second unit and also be put into a starting role when needed," end quote. Now, I'm a little less keying in here on Aldama just because, yeah, he's got that former first-round pick. He's not as much as a veteran presence as Andre Drummond would be. And I know that there's some positives to him. I'm not going to say that he is, not going to be, a good guy to have off the bench. But at the same time, he is a little bit less of a rebounder, has more points. He played a really good season this past year, field goal percentage, three-point percentage there. He's going to give you more of the same of what Alperen Şengün is going to give, and that's kind of why I'm a little bit more out on Aldama, just simply because, to me, he's just a lesser version of Alperen Şengün, and in some ways, maybe that's what Ime Udoka wants. Maybe he wants a guy off the bench that is going to be similar to Alperen Şengün. But we kind of learned this year, he likes to play that double big lineup. Andre Drummond fits more of the Steven Adams type of player. And I think that's what they're going to go for if they cannot get Steven Adams back. They want a guy who's going to be a good rebounder. They want a guy who's going to come in here and really try and figure out ways to make the team better when he is on the court. And Drummond does exactly that. I think Santi, yeah, he's going to be a good guy when he's on the court, but I don't know if he's going to be working in that double big lineup because then you just have two Alperen Şengüns running around, one of them not being as good as the other. So kind of an interesting case with Santi, but at the same time, he's a good option to look at for a couple different reasons. So it's kind of interesting to see what we could expect from him. We go on into that Alec Elijah quote saying, quote, Aldama will be coming off a 4-year, $10 million contract, and while he offers the ability to shine for a team, he certainly does not command star money in free agency, end quote. Now, a little bit of an asterisk to Santi Aldama, and the big thing here, it is a team option, a restricted free agent, which means that the Memphis Grizzlies will have first bids to him, and they can make just about as good as offer as pretty much anybody else on the open market, including the Houston Rockets. So it's really going to be up to the timeline of all of this and if the Memphis Grizzlies offer that contract, if they decide they don't want to, because, if you're Santi, you have to understand you might not get the value that you would get from the Grizzlies in the open free market. Now, you may be able to win a little better, but at the same time, you kind of risk potentially not getting as much money. So it's going to be a couple of different situations. He is a former first-round pick. He has the ability to come out and be a star in certain nights. So I think he is a pretty good guy to kind of consider, but at the same time, I'm not really over the moon about him, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the way I see him. Now, the third option comes from the Toronto Raptors, and it's Boucher here, and he is a pretty good center. He is pretty good in a lot of different aspects. If we go to his stats here, he has improved in this past season, averaging 10 points per game. It's the most since back in 2020, 2021. But he spent his entire career basically with the Raptors besides the Golden State Warriors, which, funny enough, he played one game with. But the rebounding is there, 4.5 rebounding. His free throw percentage is relatively high for a center. His field goal percentage, close to 50%. And in a lot of ways, he is somewhat of an Alperen Şengün type of guy. But at the same time, I think when you look at him and see his play type, he's kind of unlike any other player in the league. He's very much like a center that can move the court. You kind of saw from this picture here, but he's got really long legs. He's pretty tall. He's pretty skinny. He can move the floor really well. And in some ways, he can come out here and put in valuable minutes. Plus, the double big lineup with him and Şengün would be so hard to defend for multiple different reasons. First of all, you have two guys that are relatively athletic and big at the same time. So you're talking about Şengün and Boucher here going out here and grabbing rebounds. That'd be pretty good. And on top of which, you kind of look at this team, you look at this roster and say, okay, that's a little bit of a switch from Şengün. He comes out, he can run the floor. You can make this somewhat of a high, fast-paced offense, and we know that the Rockets love to shoot the ball. Last year, they were, top 10 in terms of how many shots attempted on the night they did. They can get a lot of offensive rebounds, which means they're going to shoot the ball a lot. They also take a bunch of shots because why not? And if they can run the court and you have a center like that with the legs who can kind of maybe run stuff out, it would allow for this team to kind of formulate their offense in a way that maybe you're not expecting to see from the Houston Rockets. And now we could have to see. And obviously Alperen Şengün is going to be the top piece if he is still here. Obviously, we know the reports that if a Giannis trade is executed, it will probably be Alperen Şengün heading to Milwaukee. So there is thought that, okay, Center is a very interesting position next year because you might not have Alperen Şengün. You might have one of these guys coming out here and playing in that role. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Rockets decide to do. But at center, it's a position that is definitely going to be of need one way or the other. Either you keep Steven Adams and you get that's your need filled, or you go out, get one of these guys, and the kind of odd potential of it all, you get Giannis, but you might lose out on Alperen Şengün. I mean, hopefully not, but you could become the Lakers who don't have a center at all and they traded away Anthony Davis. So I have to see what happens, but let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Who do you think would be the best backup for Alperen Şengün? Is Alperen Şengün going to be on the Rockets next year? Do you think he'll be traded for the Giannis, in the Giannis trade? Let me know down in the comment section. And for now, we'll see you next time. As always, hit that subscribe button and peace out, Rockets Nation.